What is up, guys? I'm George Mossey. This is the Family Chantel Season 4, Episode 14, the finale podcast recap. Grab a drink, grab a snack. This episode is entitled The End of Forever, and there's a lot of reason for that. So let's jump in and dissect this episode and unfortunately break down the end of Chantel and Pedro's relationship. Pedro finally tracks down Chantel at a local hotel, and a confrontation in the parking lot that leads to the police being called kind of boils out of control. Pedro goes into Chantel's trunk, takes paperwork regarding his K-1 visa, and actually confronts her about the missing $265,000 and actually says that she robbed him. Chantel actually says that she couldn't possibly have robbed him. She just didn't know what was happening in their relationship. And she told us that Pedro took out $6,000 one week, $5,000 a couple of weeks before. She didn't know where the money was going, and she just wanted to make sure that the money was safe because she could no longer trust Pedro and what he was doing because there was no open communication in their relationship. In fact, the most communication that we saw Pedro and Chantel have this entire season was during this confrontation. We had never really seen much dialogue between them till this confrontation took place. Chantel finally had decided to stop being a doormat. She was ready to stand up for herself and make a power move in this relationship. And that first power move was to open a new account and move the money and place it where she knew it would be safe until the divorce proceedings could proceed. Chantel did decide to continue on with her trip to Panama, which she stayed there for 5 days, even though it wasn't very easy to deal with the idea of being on vacation, knowing all the problems at home that she had to face. Even the amounts of alcohol there and the beautiful scenery were not enough to take her mind off of what was going on at home. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Pedro had finally decided to meet with the divorce attorney and retain her and file the paperwork for the divorce. Now, Pedro did tell us that he had definitely asked for the divorce, but he was not 100% sure if he was going to go through with the filing. He said that the last straw that made him realize that he needed to file for the divorce was the idea of Chantel removing the money from their joint account and hiding it from him. He said that he can't be with someone that he doesn't trust and doesn't support him. He felt that this action left him literally no other choice but to go through with the divorce. Now, we are unsure how the retainer was paid because Pedro said several times in the last few episodes that Chantel had left him with absolutely nothing. And we do know that the minimum for filing of a non-contested divorce, the lawyer said, was $5,000, and a contested divorce would be $10,000. But somehow the retainer was definitely paid, and we watched him go through with the divorce process, signing the papers and moving forward in the filing. When Chantel finally lands back in Atlanta from Panama, she lands to a non-working phone. At first, she's a bit confused. She thinks maybe it's a signal issue, but she notices that she can't make calls, she can't receive calls, and none of her messages are going through, and there's no internet connection. The only option that she has is to call her wireless carrier. Upon calling the wireless carrier, she is notified that not only is she no longer on the account for the wireless service, the service has been turned off, and Pedro has requested that she has absolutely no access to the account whatsoever since it was in his name. She asked to speak to Pedro, who happened to be still on the line with the wireless provider, and he refuses to speak with her. Chantel is now looking back at her relationship at things that she might have missed. She said that she has actually spoken to Pedro regarding having children and starting a family, and she's realized every time that she's tried to have that conversation with Pedro, Pedro has shut down the conversation and always found a way to not revisit it. She's beginning to wonder if forever was ever in the cards for this marriage. On top of all this stress, she still realizes that she has 2.5 years as Pedro's sponsor. Now, when you bring someone over on the K-1 visa, we all know that you have to take care of them for a minimum of 10 years. This can cancel out if they become a U.S. citizen and get a green card. That sponsor application will expire. But until Pedro applies for and receives his permanent resident card, Chantel would still be on the hook for Pedro for the next 2.5 years. On a FaceTime call with Lydia and Nicole, Pedro gives them the news that he has went forward with the filing of the divorce, and Chantel will be served later this week. They are both excited. In fact, Nicole said that she's extremely happy and excited to meet Pedro's new wife, new girlfriend and new family. And she said that the one thing that she's always wanted for her brother was for him to get a girl with a big ass. Now that's a weird thing to say from your sister, right? But she said that there's just enough of those in the world that he didn't need to sit around with Chantel and be unhappy. One thing that Lydia said last night that shocked me, she doesn't blame Chantel for the ending and demise of this marriage, because you know Nicole definitely blames Chantel for the ending of this marriage. Lydia feels that the demise of this marriage came straight from Miss Kieran. She felt that Miss Kieran never accepted Pedro and never gave him a fair shot because he was a foreigner. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. But it does seem that Lydia feels that the demise of this relationship didn't come from Chantel at all, which kind of came to me as shocking because we know she's never really had anything positive to say about Chantel in the past. For now, Chantel is going to be staying in the home that she once shared with her husband, Pedro, but she has a new roommate. So Winter has decided during this difficult time, she is going to move out of her parents' house and in with Chantel to give her the support that she needs during this difficult time. While helping Winter pack up to move into the house with her, Chantel reveals to her family that she came back from Panama to a ransacked home, missing shoes and purses and things thrown everywhere, and even routers and vacuum cleaners stolen. She can't imagine why Pedro would feel that he needs to take things from her when they've always been so open and honest with each other in the past. All this does is bring even more suspicion to what Chantel already feels in her mind. This was all part of the plan. She can't imagine how someone that once loved her as much as he says he did could ever do these things to her. Pedro decides to pay Chantel a visit at the home that they once shared. Now, once he arrives at the home, he immediately realizes that all of the locks have been changed and there's quite a few cars in the driveway, and some of them he even recognizes. He rings the doorbell just to find River, a gatekeeper for Chantel, to come out and say, "This is not a good thing for Chantel. You're not in a good place. It'll probably be best if you leave." Pedro does ask River to bring Chantel to the door, which River does agree to do, but Chantel is never notified. The only person that does come to the window is Miss Kieran, and although Miss Kieran does come to the window to get an understanding of why Pedro is even there, she advises that Chantel is fully aware of the divorce process, and filing the paperwork is not something that he needs to come by and tell her that he's going to do. That is a normal step in the process of filing for divorce, and she even brings up, had you not turned off her phone, this would be something that you would be able to do by text message or phone call had you had the decency to open lines of communication. This scene really puts into perspective how close and united this family is. They've all entered protection mode and became gatekeepers for Chantel and made sure that she is fully protected in this situation, not letting anyone from the outside in to get to her, even to have a conversation. They want the bullying to stop, and they will do anything in their power to make sure that Chantel is not hurt any more than she already has been. Although Chantel admits that she does want to have a conversation with Pedro as well as his mother and sister in the future, she's just not ready to do that right now. In fact, when she heard Pedro's voice at the house while she was upstairs, it literally made her body shake and she went into anxious tremors. That is the type of situation that she wants to avoid while she's processing her emotions. Maybe sometime in the future, they can have that open conversation and discuss what really took place. Because at this point, even watching all 14 of these episodes, none of us at home, as well as Chantel, has a clear idea of what really took place that made this marriage end. In the 7 years that they have been together, they have somehow ended up here. And maybe in the future, there will be an opportunity where they can have an open conversation and discuss with each other what really took place. Even though we all knew what the outcome of this situation was, I still watched every week with a glimmer of hope, holding on to it, hoping that this outcome would be different, although I knew it wouldn't be. I want to thank Pedro and Chantel and the entire family for sharing this difficult journey that they have went through with the world, because not many people are able to see the inside of a relationship as it is ending and going into the divorce process. I wish nothing but the best for Chantel, Pedro, and everyone involved. I hope love, peace, and happiness will come all of your way in the near future. All right, guys, I'm George Mossey. This is the finale podcast episode of The Family Chantel, Season 4, Episode 14. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you all next season.